Happy Monday, beautiful souls, wherever you are on this phenomenal planet. Yes, it is still phenomenal. Let me fix my pockets here. Feel funny when I look at myself on camera and I'm like, oh my goodness, what's going on with you? No, I didn't just roll out of bed. Maybe. No, not really. Had a great weekend, had a very productive week, and I trust the same for you. Last week I took off Monday, had so many things to catch up with, and same with this week. So I'm starting a bit late, but still right on time. If you're new to Shift Your Thinking, this is where we do our inspiration, motivation to keep us on track with what our goals are for the week. We start in little bites like the day, the week, then the month, quarters, then the year. Imagine that. You would have completed so much. We are continuing our series from Dean Del Cesso's Shift Your Thinking for Success. Feel free to grab your own copy of this book. We did Shift Your Thinking 200 Ways to Change Your Life 2 years ago, had a great segment with that. Now we're doing it for success for those of you who are mompreneurs, popreneurs, entrepreneurs, and anyone else who is just trying to get loved on. So this is my segment where I can love on you. My name's Lisa Gillett, also known as Super Agent. I'm an entrepreneur first off, right? So this is why I do Shift Your Thinking in collaboration, or I would say alongside Ready Set Real Estate, which is my show, my real estate show that airs on Wednesdays at 11 a.m. So Shift Your Thinking for me is getting those creative juices going, just keeping it in momentum, and also making sure that I'm in alignment with tweaking what I need to do in my business. So, as a real estate broker, owner, professional, I'm an author, I'm an award winning author. I am a creator. I'm working on a comic book project right now, of course, featuring Super Agent. And I'm working on a whole bunch of other stuff that I'm really excited about. And it's work, 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 work. But no, if you love it enough, then it's not work. So this week, we are going to be talking about, or I should say, yeah, this week is faking it to be impressive. So we are in episode 295. You know the rule of thumb. Press 1, I'm here. In the chat below, press 2, lets me know you shared it. Of course, if you haven't been on for a while, say hi, say hello. I've missed you. Where have you been? I know I've been doing my thing, so I trust you've been doing the same. Yes, imagine there is a live offline world that exists offline, not always online. And so shift your thinking, Ready, Set, Real Estate. And then when I do online webinars or classes, it's always a fun way for me to connect. As I'm lining up a couple things, and I don't want to use too much of our time here, I'll save it for Ready, Set, Real Estate. Stay tuned. So be sure you connect, build, and share at LA Super Agent. Connect, build, and share at LA Super Agent. I have to say that because you might miss all the announcements of what's going on. And we're not doing newsletters currently because I'm still on working out our schedule for the year in terms of workshops and training. So I'm really excited that I will be bringing those back. Woohoo! As we are lifting up the veil of COVID and just kind of laxing a little bit. Still being mindful, of course, of our surroundings, our environment, of our health, and taking care of that first and foremost. But yes, I'm excited. So we'll be doing our real estate youth boot camp, bringing that back live. I'm coordinating that to launch. I want to say it has to be July because I will be taking a vacation in August. Woo, vacations. And then I think I have something else lined up in September that I don't want it to coincide with. So look for that information July. And of course, stay tuned and connected on Wednesdays when we do our real estate show, because I always give you free game there as well. All right, shift your thinking, shift your thinking. I had to get that out because there's, again, so much going on. So much going on. We are continuing on. We are in section 8 of this. So I'm calling it faking it to be impressive. Question mark, faking it to be impressive. Or are you faking it to be impressive? It's not going to work too long. Long game. Drop in the chat below. Long game. Think long game for your business, unless you're in it to make some fast and quick money and you get out. Good luck to that. For most of us, no, it's about building something, and some have different exit strategies. We're not covering exit strategies yet, but we may get there. So let's jump right in. Dean Del Sesto says a facade, no matter how well worn, doesn't assist you on any front. So stop fronting. I should have titled it Stop Fronting. He says first impressions are lasting impressions, right? True, but in business, creating a good first impression is generally more of a strategy employed to create an outcome. How many of you agree, especially in business, that you're mindful, especially for me? I think my husband slash business partner is watching all my plays and moves, and we're documenting, creating systems so that we can duplicate that effect. And he's been noticing just the consistency and the brand experience of our clients. It's consistent across the board. They're saying the same thing, they're having the same experience. And why? Is because part of my business, I lead with education. I lead with education so my clients can make a informed decision. So for me, when we talk about making that first good impression, I'm going to start there. I'm going to start there. Education. So yes, for me, it is strategic in terms of making my first impression. It is strategic on the outcome. Same thing when I work with industry colleagues. I have the listing or I have a buyer. It's also being strategic and being open with communication. So they have a good first impression of me. They can then convey that to their clients as their clients are deciding to submit an offer or decide, are they going to spend thousands of dollars on this real estate investment? It's not just about the product, it's about the experience of that product. And that includes you. So this, it's a whole different, mindset when you're talking about, service alongside a product, because some people just think customer, right? Sell this product, customer, but also there's a customer journey and a client experience that you've got to be mindful. And are you structuring that for a deliberate outcome? Okay, let's continue. He says the challenge with first impressions is that there can be so many factors built into them. By the time impression hits, it may look too polished, agreed, come across as contrived, inauthentic, and in some cases manipulative or deceptive. Yeah, that's when you are not showing up as your true self, right? Be that human in that customer journey or client experience. Today, people are reluctant to trust first impressions. How many of you receive someone soliciting you, or you're a prospect for a certain product or a service, and you're already like, yeah, I got to get a second opinion automatically? So it's interesting because I'm noticing this dynamic. I had met with a client and she was consulting someone prior to me, and I was the second opinion. And right off the top, she conveyed that she knew, she said, if it was one thing that I know or one thing that I've learned is always get a second opinion. So it's interesting that I'm watching people, and this is because of the internet. I think there's so much information that we're inundated that when we read or when we connect from that, I guess, that first lead or that first connect, if you don't close the appointment or you don't close that client or convert them to a client, they're looking for a second opinion. So you've got to be mindful about showing up. You're faking the funk to be impressive rather than being authentic and deliberate in your outcome. I like where this is going. Agreed? So he says, today people are reluctant to trust first impressions, so much so that they've built in processes, metrics, and emotional assessments such as Myers-Briggs to make sure the real person is screened by the time their evaluation is complete. Anyone familiar with Myers-Briggs? Yes, once upon a time. If you've applied for a job or you're starting a business, you're doing your business plan and you're learning how to structure your business, what type of person you are, what are your languages, Myers-Briggs has come across. In fact, I have created a lesson. It's actually one of my signature presentations called The 5 Love Languages in Real Estate. And I share that because it's talking about personalities, you as a professional, and the individuals that you connect with. Sometimes personalities don't jive. And it's important that you have something in place to say, you know what? I feel like I have a better fit for you, and refer that client out. That way they don't have a bad taste for us as a professional, or a bad taste for the industry overall. We've got to make it better for other people. And that's how we make it better for ourselves, right? When we change, I was reading this quote that says, it's funny, most people think about changing the world instead of thinking about changing themselves. So this is what Shift Your Thinking is about: changing self, starting here, because you are impacting your outer world. That's what Shift Your Thinking is, right? Transforming our inner experience to a phenomenal outer experience. Let's continue. He says, obviously, preparation is essential to be on your game, but impressions are foundationally made and maintained by what is true, authentic, and consistent. Drop that word consistent in the chat below. One of my favorite words. Consistent is what gets it done. For instance, 295 episodes. Consistency. You say you're going to do a podcast, commit to it. Do it. You don't get to half the podcast, right? You got to be consistent, show up. He says, not what is manufactured, acted out, and immediate. Preparedness and being genuine go hand in hand. Agreed? Yes. He says, meaning the greater the preparation, the greater opportunity there is to relax and be exceptionally you while you nail it. Drop that in the comments below. Exceptional. I really like high vibration words. So exceptional, consistent, authentic, true. Are you working on having high vibration words in your vocabulary? You should. And I just jumped into today's segment because I was already warmed up. So forgive me. Normally we take a couple deep breaths, but definitely before the show and after the show, make sure you take a couple deep breaths and just get some oxygen to the brain. Work on those relaxing techniques. So forgive me. I was working on some stuff and then I said, okay, let's start Shift Your Thinking. That resonates well with people, is what he says. He says, a few years back, I was developing the business brand for Rod Allen, a high-end custom clothing company. Their value proposition, do you know your value proposition? Was and still is to customize the client's wardrobe to fit the exact nature and profile of the individual. He adds, they are detailed in their work and relentless about their process. They consider the physical attributes and personality of the client. Are you tailoring your client's experience or the customer journey? He says the audiences, excuse me, they consider the physical attributes and personality of the client, audiences the client will be in front of, and several other key variables before producing a fabric or a designing stitch. He says Rod Baker, the CEO, had a vision to make sure that every thread of clothing or accessory aligned with the authentic nature of the individual, so the person would be always at ease. He adds, fully themselves with no obstruction of negative thoughts, feeling, or discomfort. You thinking about your client that far out? I do. That's why I'm confident to say I have repeat business from that, is because I'm thinking it all the way through. If I know these things are going to come up, how can I smooth out the journey? I'm negotiating a deal right now, transaction with a buyer's agent who is calling me for every question or thought that he can come up. Why? And he said to me, thank you for being available and answering my questions. He said, I'm just thinking ahead so that we can have a smooth experience. He's thinking about his client's experience, right? How can I, just smooth out anything that might come up that can cause unnecessary stressors? So very important. I appreciate it. I'm not opposed to having the calls or multiple calls and conversations. In fact, it's refreshing in an era and time that everyone wants to text something. Sometimes you can't text putting an entire deal together. So for me, I'm enjoying this aspect of the real estate communication, is because we have gone so far south, if you will, from communicating. Yes, as industry professionals. And that lack of communication is translating into stress and challenge and irritation and frustration among our clients or future clients. They call, it's interesting because I right now I'm noticing every single person says, "Thank you for picking up your phone." I don't understand why anyone who's in business would not pick up their phone, being avoidant. So, not working, FYI, for those of you who are entrepreneurs and you putting your number out there and people are calling you and you don't answer the phone. Stop that. Let's continue. I totally went on a tangent, but still related because we're talking about first impressions, customer journey, client experience. He says the tagline I crafted for Rod Allen, this was a client he was working in, was extraordinarily you. It's funny because I have one of my client, my coaching plans is called Super You. The concept worked so well with their clients that Rod and his writing partner, Rick Wagner, went to write a book called Extraordinarily You. He says, as thought leaders on personal image, they both realized the most powerful impression anyone can make begins being extraordinarily themselves. So try here, being extraordinarily you. Hey, doll. She says, you've always answered every single question, even at 11 at night. LOL. Thank you. Thank you, Cindy. This is client turned friend. And it's so funny because it reminds me of a meme that I saw that said, your client will become a friend because a friend would become a client. And I think most entrepreneurs experience that at some point, right? We go to our friends and we say, hey, I started a business, support, and you don't get that support. You'll get it from a complete stranger that then in the long run turns your advocate, just like you become their advocate. And then you become, and it blossoms to this great relationship and friendship. So I appreciate you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And everyone who connects with me. It's so funny. I was just sharing Kyle about how we connected. And I said that 11 o'clock at night is where it started. I responded because I had another client, another buyer called me the other day. She was a teacher. She called at 10:30 at night and I answered and we had a great conversation and she totally appreciated the insight I provided. And she says, you know, you just got to do what's necessary to get what you want. And given this competitive market, she's on to something and she's got to, you got to go for it. So yes, so let's continue. He says, that was the baseline for great things to happen for them. And it will always be the baseline if you trust and build on the authentic you. So, with that, I say, let's wrap this up. He says, be fully. Let's do call to action. In fact, that's a great place to do a call to action. Be the fully authentic you today and see what impressions come from it. All right. So this week, call to action is focusing on showing up in the world as you. Here's the thing that I've shared with my children about the importance of being authentically who you are, because it is very tiring and exhausting being someone else that you're not. And let's take this a little bit further. I was sharing that with them in context of relationships. I know my daughter's now 22 and my son is 10. And so, yes, I'm coaching them through life. Otherwise, they'll get coached from somewhere else. And then it could be issues, but at least I give them a baseline of where to start to formulate these thoughts and experiences for their outer journey and their outer world. So I share this with you as I shared with them. Wouldn't you want to be connected with someone who likes you for who you are? Like, why would you want to be in a relationship with someone who doesn't even know who you really are? Because that can only go so far because it becomes exhaustive that you're not being yourself. 3 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. Don't you hear the term, oh, I don't even know who you are anymore? That's likely because you never showed up in your true authentic self. Don't do that in business because you will pay a massive price. And that price comes by way of social media and word to talk and referrals, where the word gets out that you're fronting and it's not really working out for the long term of your business. All right. With that, I say have a powerful and productive week. I love you, love you, love you. I'll see you next Monday on Shift Your Thinking.